The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are live this morning. It is Monday, September 30th, 2024. So thrilled to be here with you guys. We're doing a special parent to parent today because I just have been deluged with parents who have been writing to me at different points with their IEPs and different concerns. And I thought, I think it's time for us to sort of lift up the hood and take a look and do an IEP check-in. So that's what we're going to be doing today, parent-to-parent check-in. But as always, we'll take questions from you guys about absolutely anything. But I do see that there is a great deal of concern right now across the board from people. Either you're in the process with your IEP or the IEP is there. And I know sometimes we all want to do the Ron Popeil thing where you set it and forget it, but you can't do that with IEPs. That just isn't what's going to be best for your child. So we're going to do that in just a second. And but first, I want to go through some different things and let you guys know that we welcome you writing in right now. Hi, Rodney. Thrilled, right on cue. Rodney's there watching, and we're thrilled to have you there. You can be writing in real time. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and a bunch of other places that Chris is showing you here on the screen right now. Our fabulous Chris Desmond. Which we couldn't do anything without Chris Desmond. But also want to let you know that the show exists in a couple of different places. It exists on our YouTube channel, and we have an archive of 14 years of amazing programming for you to look through and watch and see all the iterations of my crazy hair. But then we also are available on podcast platforms, which you're seeing on your screen, like iHeartRadio, Spotify, all of those places. It is a free download, all of those places, which I hope you guys are aware of the fact that it is a free download, but that it will come with advertisers, just like other podcasts that are interspersed throughout the podcast. And we hope that you embrace that because that's what's making it free for you guys. If that's really disruptive to your listening process, some of you have said that you'd be willing to pay a couple of dollars to be able to get it and have it be ad-free so that it's not interrupting your workout. You absolutely can do that by going to glow.fm/autism-live. So it's $5 a month, but you not only get Autism Live, you get everything that the Autism Network does. You get Autism Live, Ask Dr. Doreen, and all of our other shows as well. Anytime we do a new show, it will show up in your inbox and it will be there ad-free. So all of those things for you. I always like to remind everybody at the start of the show what it is that we're trying to do here. Our mission is to provide information and inspiration to that larger autism community, because that starts with individuals who are themselves on the autism spectrum. We want to hear from them. We want to hear their voices, their needs, their desires, of course, right? But we also want to check in with and help support all of the individuals who love those individuals. That's really what we're about. That's what we're calling the larger autism community, the individuals themselves on the spectrum, and that community that's around them trying to support them, that loves them. We want to support all of the people in that circle. The people in that circle are so varied what their needs are, right? It's not a one size fits all. I have to be honest. Did anybody watch Ellen DeGeneres' new comedy special on Netflix? I haven't seen the whole thing, but you got to check out what she says about people asking her if she's on the spectrum. I thought her response was absolutely brilliant, and I hope that you'll check it out and let us know what you think of it as well. But she talked about the fact that it is a spectrum, right? And that everybody has different needs and different concerns. So we are not trying to be one size fits all here, which means we do a lot of programming. Sometimes we might do something that's exactly right for you, and other times it's not. But that's why we ask you to write in and tell us what you need, so that I used to say, I gave up mind reading to be the mom of a kiddo with a diagnosis. Right? Right? I don't have the time to read your mind. I need you to write it in, tell me what you need, and then I'll get to work and see if together as a team we can help to support you. That's super, super important to us. Speaking of support, we are very involved with, very near and dear to my heart, a charity called Autism Care Today. This charity was founded by Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, and she founded it because she saw that not only she was already owned an ABA company and was helping support families and individuals with that, but she saw that there were other things that families needed that involved money and time that the parents and the family members and the individuals perhaps did not have, so that they weren't having access to other things. So she founded Autism Care Today. It is a charity, a 501c3 national charity of the highest reputation that gives grants to individuals for the things that they ask for. Now, it is important to note that they don't get a check themselves for the thing. What happens is, let's say that you need an iPad and you put in a grant request for an iPad, then you have to say where it is that you want to buy the iPad from and what it would be, what the cost would be. And if your grant is funded, that entity gets a check and it says for Roberto's iPad, right? And then the person can have it shipped or pick it up, whatever. This includes all kinds of things. They help to support copays, medical copays, but also safety equipment, so many different things you can ask for, right? If it's something that's care or treatment, you can ask for it. They are in an open grant phase right now, so you can go to act-today.org and fill out a grant application. That grant phase only goes until October 8th, so we're down to the last week here, guys. If you need a grant, you should write and ask. But I also want to let you know that they can only fund a certain amount of grants because whatever money that we take in fundraising, that limits us of what grants can be fulfilled, because I volunteer for them. I'm saying we, but I volunteer for them. So we do fundraisers from time to time, and right now we've got our biggest fundraiser of the year is the All Ghouls Gala. And this is a wonderful, wonderful adult Halloween party that this will be the 3rd annual All Ghouls Gala, and the proceeds go towards funding those grants. So we want to take just a second and show you a promo video for the event and encourage you, if you're going to be in the Los Angeles area, please buy your tickets now. If you're not going to be in the Los Angeles area, please donate to ACT Today so that more people can get grants. But let's take a look at the clip.
It's that time of year, when the fear of missing out overcomes you. Well, at ACT Today, we would rather light a candle in your window than curse your darkness. Because tickets for the 3rd annual All Ghouls Gala are now on sale. It's time for you to get all dolled up. There will be drinks, dancing, and plenty of food. Head on over to 3rd annual All Ghouls Gala at eventbrite.com to get your tickets now. And remember, the only thing better than one ticket is 2. So bring a friend.
Thank you, Chris Desmond, for our lovely promos. I was supposed to give a disclaimer and say if you have kids that are close by that it might contain scary. Hopefully we didn't shock anybody. Hi, Rosie. So thrilled that you're here with us this morning. So please, as I said, if you're going to be in the Los Angeles area, get your tickets now. It will sell out. So important to get your tickets now. It's on October 26th. That's the Saturday before Halloween. So, and listen, it will be a wonderful star-studded event, and you should be there if you can be there. But if you can't, please just donate. And if you'd like to, you can buy a ticket for someone, and I will happily give a parent in the Los Angeles area the ticket that you purchase. So there we go. Okay, but let's jump in here because I want to talk about IEPs. First of all, I want to say that we found a new resource that this year that I was unaware of. I think everybody knows that there is a law that allows for your child to have an IEP, right? It's called IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And it has never been fully funded, which is part of the reason why we have such a battle when we go in to do IEPs, because there isn't enough money because it hasn't been fully funded. Okay, So that's our basic understanding, that you are going to have to advocate for yourself or your child. And I think in most cases that it is for your child. It's the rare case, I guess, with high school students. Sometimes we have high school students who are advocating for themselves. But most of the time it's the parents who are advocating for their children, for their IEPs. But you're not alone. And I did not know this until fairly recently, that part of IDEA states that every single state in the United States has to have a parent hub that is for information about how to get the full, what your child needs in their IEP. So every single state has at least one of these parent hubs, and you can find yours by going to parentcenterhub.org. And when you go there, you will click on the button that says Find Your Center. Now in California, because it's such a huge state, we have several of them. And we even have some that are tailored towards specific languages. So do check that out. It is a free resource. Every single parent hub does it differently, but they have classes and virtual webinars and counselors. Now, they aren't paid attorneys and advocates, but if they see that your case requires a paid attorney or advocate, they will give you a list of ones in the area that they have at least vetted a little that they would recommend to you. You don't have to take that recommendation. I always tell people to look at COPAA.org. That stands for Council of Parent Attorneys and Advocates. COPAA.org to be able to talk with somebody and have them help you, support you through this process. So my assumption is that those of you who are watching already know what an IEP is, and you at least started with an IEP. If this is all new to you and you're like, my child doesn't have an IEP, I don't even know what that is, I really want to encourage you. An IEP is an individual education plan, and every child who has an autism diagnosis should have one. We're getting into a little bit of dicey things right now where a lot of schools are saying, sometimes even without an evaluation, this literally makes the top of my head come off and fly around the room. They're saying, oh, we don't think your child needs an IEP. No. No. Let me just tell you that if your child has a diagnosis of autism, your child is entitled to, at the very least, be evaluated for an IEP. And if they evaluate your child and they say, nope, they don't qualify, then you have the ability to ask for an independent educational evaluation, an IEE. The school has to pay for that. I guarantee you, your child should have an IEP. Okay? Now, your child can have an IEP for a number of years and be doing so well that you make the decision that you're going to exit the IEP and go to a 504 plan. We've done shows on that. I would encourage you to check those out if that's what your question is. But by the way, you can write in anything you want, any question about any of this. Got to drink my tea. My throat is dry. Autism Journey with Elijah is in the house. I'm so thrilled to see you. And they say, I love this topic. Okay. And needed in writing. It's a legal contract. It doesn't mean anything if it's not in writing. That's right. Because they'll say all manner of all hoo-ha to you, right? But if it's not in writing, your child doesn't get it. So they could promise you $1 million. It's not in writing, you don't get it. So we want to make sure that everything is in writing. And that IEP is that legal document where everything is in writing. For a lot of you, and I'm going to go through this really quickly, the 10 things, but then we're going to dive into it and dive into the different circumstances. But for a lot of you, you have your IEP right now, and we're probably 60 days into the fall. And so this is meant for the check-in to make sure that we've got everything working. There are lots of special circumstances. So let's go through it quickly, and then we'll go back and talk through these things. So your fall IEP check-in. First thing we want to ask ourselves, is there any testing left over from the spring semester? And is there already assigned assessment plan? If there's anything that's left over, we're already 60 days into the school year, we got to get this clock ticking. We'll talk more about that in a second. Number 2, have all of the services and accommodations fully started? Because I am appalled and amazed sometimes that I hear from families, they're like, oh, we haven't started speech yet. They wanted to let the first 6 weeks. No. No. I'm just going to say no a lot during the show, I think. But anyway, we'll talk more about this in a second. Number 3, are you getting regular notifications from the school, and are there issues that need addressing? Obviously, right? We want to take care of those. Number 4, is there a BIP attached to the IEP? We should know. As parents, we need to know. Number 5, are we seeing progress? Forget that, you made a beautiful IEP, but is it actually working? Are you seeing progress, and is more support needed? Number 6, is there a safety plan for your child? We're going to take some time and talk about this today because that's important. Number 7, is there a reward strategy from when your child has a good day? Really important. Number 8, does your child have friends? Because if your child doesn't, we want to add goals into the IEP, right? Number 9, collect work samples. Are you collecting work samples so that we can say, oh, this is what it was in the beginning of the year, this is what it is now? Number 10, I'm going to be asking if you're volunteering in the classroom, because this is the sneak attack that we volunteer in the classroom, and then we get to see all the things that are going on and hear all the things that are going on. It's amazing. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning and let's talk through these little by little. For a lot of you that I'm hearing from, I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. Hopefully not. For a lot of you that I'm hearing from, you either notified the school that your child was coming to school sometime, some of you it's April, May, June, even in August that you made the decision that your child is coming to school. Because some of you, your child is 3, 4, 5. Once your child is 6, right, you have to register. But when you decide to register your child, that is the moment usually that a parent says, oh, and by the way, our child is on the autism spectrum. And I, like, if I were going to make a video about this, I would have a parent walking in saying, hi, I'd like to register my child, blah, 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 blah. And oh, by the way, my child is on the autism spectrum. And then things should pop out of cabinets when this happens, because everything changes when you notify the school that your child is coming to school and on the autism spectrum. It's like a big clock with confetti should come up, and warning bells and music should go off to say, all right, we're going to start this clock ticking. Because within 60 days of you notifying them of that, they have to come up with a plan for either how they're going to assess or how they're going to support this child. If there isn't already an IEP from another school or from previous years that they've been there, they would start with that. But usually there isn't something because you're notifying the first time, which means they have to make a plan for an assessment. And they get a certain number of days. I think they get 30 days to plan, give you the plan for the assessment, and then 60 days to carry it out. Okay, well, here's the sticky wicket. Let's say that you tell them on May 20th that your child is coming and is on the autism spectrum. Then if it's within 10 days of the end of the school year, then everything freezes and they don't pick up the mantle for it until the first day of school. And then that's when the clock ticks, right? But for some of you, you told them in March that your child was coming to school. And I'm hearing from all kinds of parents that nothing happened. The school didn't do anything. They said, just bring your child to school and we'll assess them. And that they were at school for a month and they were just sort of watching and looking. And now they're coming to the family and saying, oh, we'd like to have you sign an assessment agreement, right? And that's a way that school takes advantage of us, our time, and our kids' time. But here we are. We are, for some of you, you're 30 days, some of you, you're 60 days into the school year. If you had notified the school that your child was on the autism spectrum and they have not offered you an assessment agreement by this time of the year, I want to encourage you to file a complaint with the Department of Education in your state, because they are not doing what the Department of Ed code says to do. If once they've been notified, 30 days starts to tick, unless it's 10 days before the end of the school year, which means it starts on the first day, but we're already past that already. If they have not offered you a plan for assessment by now, they are not in compliance. So I urge you to file a complaint. But sometimes what happens is that right at the 30 days, they go, oh, here's the assessment plan. And nothing happens until you sign it. And once you sign it, they have 60 days to complete the testing. And then they have time to meet with you and squirrel around. And what happens a lot of times is that then it's like, well, we're into the holidays. Let's just have the meeting in January. This is why I have the melting clock, because this is what happens to your child's education program. As parents, we need to be aware and working the clock. So if you have any testing that was promised to you last semester, you need to write to them today and say, can I have my assessment plan? And you need to read it and agree to it and sign it. And once you sign it, we have 60 days and you got to be on them like a dog on a pork chop. You got to be on them and tell them, can we schedule the meeting now for 60 days so that we don't not pushing things out. They will run the clock on you. So this was the first most important thing I wanted to get to. Hi, everybody. Hi, Susie. Okay, so let's go on to number 2. If there's anything left over, you need to be in writing asking them for stuff. And if there's assessment, ask for the assessment. Okay, number 2, have all the services and accommodations fully started. I literally will run screaming around the block with my hair on fire if I have to hear one more parent tell me that a school said, well, we're not going to start the speech services, or we're not going to do the OT, or we're not going to do this. No, my friends. You have a contract and it says, that your child gets X number of hours of speech every week. And I don't care I literally don't care what their excuse is. There is no excuse. Anything less than getting that, and they're out of compliance. And you can say to them, hold your IEP up and go, you're out of compliance. You didn't start speech for the first 2 weeks. I want those minutes back. And they can write you a check, or they can do, extra time during the week, but then your child will be pulled out of class, right? Or they can do it during the summer, or depending on how long your fall break is, whatever, if they have staff there then. But they don't get to it. It's literally, they have a contract, and the contract says your child gets this much of this every week. It doesn't say, but not the first 3 weeks. Nowhere on that contract does it say that. In fact, if you add up the minutes, they figured it out that there's this many weeks in the year, and they didn't subtract the first 2 weeks or the first 6 weeks or whatever, right? So it's literally as if your child has a bin of services and they went, oh, I'm just going to take some of it. You don't mind, do you? You don't mind if I steal from your child? Don't let them steal from your child. Don't let them steal from your child. So if anything has not fully started yet, first of all, I want you to get it started. And second of all, I want you to ask for compensatory education for what they missed. You're teaching these people that you are not to be messed with, and that no one is stealing from your child. Okay? And there is no excuse at this time in the year. All the services should have been started. And here's the really horrible thing. They know that. You're not going to be telling them something they don't know. They absolutely know that they're supposed to start those services. Now, I do want to give the disclaimer right now that from time to time when I do a thing about schools, I get these irate messages from people who work in schools, and they go, you make it sound so adversarial, Shannon, and you're sending a message to people that they're not going to have a good experience at school. And listen, I'm a former school teacher. I love school, and there are many amazing people in schools that do amazing things for our kids, and I'm so grateful for the amazing teachers that my son, and even some of the administrators, were like really good people who were helping him to get what he needed to do. But there are a bunch of administrators, and I started the hour with this, that it's not fully funded. That's not their fault that it's not fully funded, but it means that they are left to do some very creative things, which means stealing from your child. Sorry, I don't cotton to that. No, ma'am. Okay, so and I get emails, dozens of emails every day outlining how schools are doing things that they know are illegal. Don't even get me started. And that's not okay for me. Just not okay. So we have to make sure that we are advocating for our kiddos. Okay, number 3. Are you getting regular notifications from school, and are there any issues that need addressing? So let's start with, are you getting regular notifications from school? It probably isn't written into the IEP, but you have a right to get regular communications with the people who are dealing with your child so that you know what's happening at school. Now, every teacher is different. Every kiddo is different. Every process is different. And you kind of get to negotiate it a little bit. And I got to be honest, to me personally as a parent and me as a former teacher, I lean towards what will work for both people. Because if it doesn't work for the parent and they're getting messages that they can't, like you can't open the app where the messages are, then what's the point? And if it's something that the teacher can't keep up, because if they've got 45 kids in the classroom and no classroom aid, and they're having to write lengthy handwritten notes to you about everything that happens, they're not going to be able to keep that up. So it's got to work for both parties. And it's a little bit of a negotiation, but I see this as a little bit of a plus, right? Because it's an opportunity for you to get in cahoots with the teacher and say, hey, what works for you? And I, as a teacher, if I heard that, I would go, oh, this person sees me as a person who has a life outside of school, who knows that I, want to communicate with them, but is asking what my preference is, right? So I don't think that that's a bad thing at all, but we need to have regular notifications. And a lot of schools now have, different options. Like I said, like an app. If you're not tech savvy, that can be harder. But I know when my son was in junior high, we had a very specific app that I would get notifications at the end of every class from teachers. And it might be 3 words, right? But it worked for them and it worked for me. High school, it was an entirely different process. I don't like it as much, but I believe that high school is my phrase was, I don't get to know. Like I don't get, like stuff is happening. I don't get to know until 3 weeks from now. I didn't like that, but we were exiting the IEP, right? It's a hard time, but it is critical, especially if you're not in the mode of exiting the IEP, that you get regular notifications. You have a right to it. And it's a way that you can help support school as well if you're getting regular notice. So ask for it. And you absolutely have to get benchmarks every quarter. It says in your child's IEP, but it's usually every quarter. It says by this and so date, the child will do X, Y, and Z, right? You're supposed to get a benchmark around that date with your report card that says if your child is doing it. If you're not getting benchmarks, they're out of compliance. So let's not have that happen. But right now, in this check-in, are there any issues that need addressing at school? I mean, I can think of 1,000 things. I remember in junior high, in the second year that my son was in junior high, we were about at this point of the school year, and they had insisted on giving him, he couldn't bring one from home. He had a laptop because he was typing instead of writing, and because his handwriting was still a thing in progress, right? But they had asked us to turn the laptop in at the end of the year, and at the beginning of the year, they couldn't find it. And, weeks went by, and we still had not found it. And it was written into his IEP. And finally, mom had to go to the school and threaten to call a lawyer because they were out of compliance. And oddly enough, strangely enough, within 15 minutes, they were able to locate that computer. When I stood in the office and said, I have my lawyer on speed dial, you're out of compliance, where's the computer? And then it just showed up. We have to advocate for our kiddos. I felt so bad about the fact that I let it go so long, right? That it was weeks that my child was without it and he had a right to it. So is there anything right now going on that you need to address? And then let's address it. Well, I love this. Autism Journey with Elijah said regular notifications shouldn't always be negative. I went through that, and boy, it was discouraging. They were communicated by home note daily. Yeah, no. In fact, if we're getting notifications that come home that are negative, I would say if you get one, I would write back and say what happened before. Whatever this thing is that happened, what was going on before, right? And I would ask for help and support from whatever team you have working to go in and look at the thing. And if you get two of those, I would ask for a functional behavior assessment from the school. Like, I just don't mess around with negative notifications. I'm talking about, like, A+, we got all the work done today. Or, had a little bit of trouble opening his milk carton, right? Whatever it is, but it shouldn't be negative stuff. If it's negative stuff, we definitely want to deal with that immediately. And you might be sitting there going, oh gosh, I didn't know that. And we've gotten 3 notes already in this school year about something, anything, whatever it is that there was pushing in the line. Anytime you get 2 of a behavior, just tell them we're requesting that you do a functional behavior assessment. And they'll know what that is. We can talk more about that. But we don't, the thing with school, and I really learned this the hard way, don't let things fester. If things aren't working, let's get right in there and do something about it, right? It's better for your kiddo. It's better for you. It's better for the school. It's better for the teacher. It's better for the other students in the class. So let's just get right on top of stuff. Okay, number 4. Is there a BIP attached to the IEP? So a BIP is a behavior intervention plan. If your child is engaging in a behavior that somebody needs to intervene and do something about, and this could be anything. Maybe your child is crying. Maybe your child is spitting on the desk. Maybe your child is shoving other kids in line. Maybe your child just won't ever hold a pencil, right? If there's anything that's going on that requires an intervention, a behavioral intervention, then we need to have a plan for it. We can't just be winging it, which is often, unfortunately, what happens with our kiddos, that somebody goes, oh, well, I know, I'm just going to do this. Well, that's not science-based, and that's not what we do. So if you see something going on, you ask for the functional behavior assessment, right? And that's the FBA that I was talking about. And that's almost always done by the school psychologist. And they will come in and they will look at the behavior and they'll go, this is what's happening. This is when it's happening. There's a whole thing. There's a whole form for it. But basically, when we do a BIP, we're figuring out what is the behavior, what is the problem with the behavior, what is the function of the behavior. Why is this behavior happening? Why does the child feel that they need to engage in this behavior in order for that to happen? What is it that they want? Are they being taught another way to get what they want? Can we do a replacement behavior, right? In a BIP, it will come up with, in order to be an actual BIP, it names what the function of the behavior is. It says, here is an antecedent strategy before we get to the behavior so that we're doing something, so hopefully we don't get to the behavior. Here, and it outlines completely what the behavior is, and it says, here's, if we don't intervene beforehand and the behavior happens, here's what the consequence is for that behavior. And anything that happens around the child that is not outlined in a consequence strategy is out of compliance if the BIP is attached to the IEP. Some of you have a BIP and you fought hard for it and you worked it all out, and there's a plan for your child's behavior that keeps them safe, keeps the other kiddos safe, and hopefully starts to change the dynamic so your child isn't engaging in this behavior anymore. But if that BIP is not attached to the IEP, it is not a legally binding document on its own. It has to be attached to the IEP. So I do want you to pull out your IEPs for this check-in, and hopefully you know where it is. We've said to people before, get one of those magnetic sheet protector things, put it into the sheet protector, stick it to the side of the refrigerator. You know what I mean? Like, know where it is, or have a specific place that it's like, this is where my child's IEP is. But on the first page of the IEP, and it's in different places in different states, but there is a place where it says BIP attached. And if that box is not checked, then your BIP is just a suggestion. It's not a legally binding document. And you want to write and say, I need this attached, and have an amendment. If you don't have a BIP, but you're having those notes come home saying your child is doing something, that's why you want to ask for the functional behavior assessment. You say, I'm requesting an FBA. We've gotten 2 notes coming home saying that he's kicking. We would like someone to do an FBA, and please notify us when that will be happening, right? Then you get the BIP, you meet with them, and you go through the BIP, and it should have all of those elements that I just outlined. It should say what the function of the behavior is. It should describe the behavior. There should be an antecedent modification. There should be a consequence strategy, and there should be a replacement behavior, a way for them to get their need met without engaging in that behavior. If it does not have all of those things, it is not a good BIP. I do want to say that Skills for Autism has a BIP builder, and it might be worthwhile for you to go in and there's something called a CIFA, which has been researched. It's very effective, where it is not the same as an FBA, but it's close, right? It's a very useful tool that you can say anything that your child is doing at home. Let's say that your child is spitting, and you go in and they ask you in the program, what is the child doing? And you say spitting, and then they'll ask you a bunch of questions like, does your child do this when nobody else is around? Does your child do this at specific times during the day? Does your child do this around specific people? Whole bunch of questions. And then it says, okay, based on this, it sounds like your child is engaged in this because they're doing it for attention, or it's a combination of attention and escape, right? It'll tell you. And then it will recommend things to do so that you can change the dynamic. But then you go over to the BIP builder and you put in spitting, and it has a place to put the function, and you put the function or functions in. And then the next thing is it says, okay, here are recommended antecedent modifications. Which one would you like to use? And if you pick one that usually it doesn't even offer you ones that aren't scientifically based. But if you should, I know, because we got a BIP from the school psychologist, and I sat down with this and I tried to put it in, and it said, warning, that strategy has not been found to be effective. And this computer program did it. And I was like, what? Excuse me? That has not been found to be effective. Why is the school psychologist recommending it then? And I was able to go back in with a different BIP that I got from the BIP builder, and I had her BIP side by side, and I said, you recommended this, but the attention was the thing, and that is not what's found to be scientifically effective. We got a good BIP out of it. And then we never saw that school psychologist again. I don't know where she went. I have no idea. Literally, I have no idea. I love Autism Journey with Elijah says, if they are mad or dislike you, you're doing your job. Right? And regular note. Oh, I see that came before that one. I hadn't seen that one. Yeah, I think here's the rub of it for me, that I worried so much. I was like, what must they think of me? And they must not like me very much. And I felt that way about CARD as well, that I was a parent at CARD, and I thought they must hate me. And then when my child graduated, they offered me a job. And I went, are you kidding? I thought you'd be so glad to see the back end of me. And every time that my son graduated from one of his school programs and was going to another school, there would always be several people, even administrators, who would come up to me and say, I just want to thank you. I learned so much through this process. I thought you were being a difficult parent, but I saw that you were only asking for what was really reasonable and would actually help your child, and that you forced us to do things that we don't normally do. And we saw your child flourish, and now we're excited about doing this with other kiddos, to which I would always say to them, yeah, you need to wait and see what they need, because everybody doesn't need what Jem needs, right? But I think fewer people hate you than you think when you're advocating for your child. And when you're doing it reasonably, I tried to always be reasonable, and I didn't ask for pie in the sky things. I just asked for, people to educate him and treat him with dignity, which I just don't think you should even have to ask for. But, you know, here we are. Okay, moving on. But you got to have that BIP. If you've got the BIP, you've got to have it attached to the IEP. So, but now here are the big questions. Okay, we're like 6, 7, 8 weeks into school. Are we seeing progress? On a regular basis, is your child coming home and you're seeing the dial moved? And if you're not, I mean, there are different stages of this, right? Are we maintaining? I will take maintaining for a short period of time, but not really at the start of the year. Because part of what happens in the start of the year, just so you know, because of that summer slide that all the other kids participate in, that schools have documented that the kids are going to lose a certain amount of what they learned last year. I'm talking about all the other kids, not just our kids. They're going to lose a certain amount. So the first 6 weeks of school now are just review, going over what the concepts were that were discussed in the last grade. That's the first 6 weeks. They are just starting to introduce new things. So if your child is just maintaining through the review, I'm not happy. Because I want your child to be seeing progress. And at the very least, I want them to, you know, feel confident because they're going over stuff that they went through before, and that they're behaviorally being rewarded for that. So if we're not seeing progress in the first 6 weeks, we need more support. And if we need more support, we need to go back in and ask for it. And sometimes this can be difficult, but we're going to talk about one of the things that's going to help us to do that. And sometimes you just have to say it. Now, if you're with a good teacher and you advocate for more support and you start the conversation, sometimes they'll back you up and go, yes, we need more support. Because remember, they're struggling. If your child's struggling, they're struggling. So if you're not seeing progress, it's time to go in and have another conversation and ask for more support. Don't be afraid to ask for more support. Your child's entitled to it. Okay, moving on. Number 6. This is so important, especially because I'm going to get emotional. We just, was it yesterday that we were commemorating that Veda Al-Malidi and her son Mo passed away in a fire. This woman was an amazing advocate for all of us and for her child, fighting so hard for families that have kiddos that are really deeply affected. And Mo was one of those kiddos, but the house caught on fire and everybody got out of the house except for Mo. She went back in, as most of us would, for her son, and she could not get him out of the house. And so they died on the stairs holding on to each other. What a horrible, horrible tragedy. But there are a group of Veda's friends and colleagues who remind us at the end of September every year that we need to be doing safety drills with our kiddos at home. If you have not done a fire alarm drill lately with your family, do one. We tend to do right when we change the clocks, but that's only twice a year. I really think you need to be doing it 4 times a year. So you could do it when the seasons change. So either way, we're just about to have the clocks change and we just have the seasons change. Do a fire drill with your kiddos, and don't just do a fire drill, do all kinds of drills on a regular basis and have them start when you're in separate rooms from them. You know, with the lights out, with the lights on, do safety drills at home, okay? In Veda's name, please do that for yourself and for your kiddos. But what's happening at school? Does the teacher have a safety plan for your child? Is there a safety plan in place? Now is the perfect time to be asking for that. It's reasonable and it's critical and important, because it's possible that your child is going to need a little bit more help and support during a fire drill. I hate to say this, but how many school shootings have we been through where a kiddo on the spectrum gets shot? I hate putting that into you guys' head, but we need to have a plan to keep our kids safe. So ask for that now. Have it rehearsed. Rehearse it at home with your kiddo. I can't tell you the number of times that we rehearsed with our son about, if something happens, if somebody comes in and they say, get down, what do you do, and how you try to get your head covered with your backpack. They have found that that's more effective at protecting our children, and they have to know how to play dead. What a horrible world that we live in, that we need to be teaching our special needs children how to play dead. But my friends, you need to do it. You need to just do it and do it today. And talk to the teacher and talk to the principal about what is the plan for your child in case of any emergency. Really put their feet to the fire and make sure that there is a plan, because when we fail to plan, we plan to fail. And this is too important, you guys. So critical stuff. Take control of what you can take control of. Don't, descend into the fear of all of it. Take control over what you can take control over and practice these things with your child. Don't make it scary for them. Have an element of it that, it's serious, but you can still make it a good time. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to put fear and anxiety on top of them, but we do want them to know what to do. Okay, moving on to number 7. Is there a reward strategy for when your child has a good day? And this is something that you do hand in hand with the school. And there are all kinds of token economies that you can do, or you can, it depends on how much, if you've got a one-to-one aid, or if the teacher, how much effort they're willing to put in. And it changes with your child's desires, and it changes with their abilities, and it changes with their age. And when my son was in kindergarten, he had a one-to-one aid, and we started with a sticker chart, and it just got more and more complicated. But we had at different times, different stickers. And, when you do something good, you get a sticker. And when you do something that isn't helpful to the group, you could lose a sticker. But if you had a certain number of stickers, and obviously this changed throughout the year because we wanted it to be a thing where he learned that it was worthwhile, but then we wanted to slowly fade it out, right? But he would get, if he had a certain number of stickers, that would be rewarding for him at school. And if you got a certain number of stickers across the week, then you got to go to the treasure box. Okay, all that's wonderful. But if it's reinforced at home as well, so much the better. So this was another way that they could communicate with me, that I would pick him up and he would have his little sticker chart, and I would see how he would do. And we had a different rule that if you got a certain number of stickers, then you got either daddy dollar or mommy money. And it was fake money, right? Monopoly money that we put our pictures in and copied. And once he got, I don't know why, but it was 42. Once you got 42 of them, on that day, we would go to Disneyland. And we would. We would know, it's like, we got to clear the schedule because he's about to get 42 and we're going to go to Disneyland. So, there's short-term rewards, long-term rewards. But are we baking into the system that if your child has a good day at school, that it's rewards, rewards, rewards? There's a reward at school. There's a reward at home. Fabulous things happen when you do good at school, right? We want to keep drilling in, because you know what? Our kids don't understand grades. And if they did understand them, who cares? Who cares? And a lot of times in grade school, the grades aren't even, it's a satisfactory whatever. Like, who cares about that? We have to make it worthwhile to them. Thank you, Anita. Yes, I feel that the safety stuff is important too. And she says, yes, I worked in school and have had to follow through a plan. It's just like, we got to keep breathing. But this is on the good side of things. Let's reward that good behavior and work in cahoots with the school. We always had good teachers, and when they would tell us, okay, we're struggling a little bit with this, our team would come up with a plan, and then we would say, here's the behavior we want to see, Jem, and here's the reward you're going to get when we see it. And the teachers appreciated that. Absolutely appreciated that. Okay, on to number 8, because we're getting out of time. Does your child have friends? Okay. Everybody take a breath, right? Because this is some very personal territory. It's really critical that our children have a support system that is a peer support system. Isn't that what we're all working towards? I used to watch The Big Bang Theory and I would think, oh, if I just knew that at some point he would have that, right? You know, that people who love and accept him for who he is, that they have shared interests, all great. But we don't get there just on one day with no prep for it, right? We got to start at whatever age your child is now. And they need to have at least one friend at school. So school can help us with that. And we can give them a goal that's during recess or during teamwork, where they work with another child. And we really want to make sure that in the IEP that exists, right? And you want to be hearing, and whenever you have parent-teacher conferences or in the notifications, are they playing well with others? Is there anybody in particular that they're playing well with? And we want to make sure that the school is reinforcing that. School will tell you that they don't have anything to do with social goals, and that's just poppycock. If you look at what the IDEA says, it says that it's supposed to prepare your child not just for now, but for success in their life and in their career in the future. So how is life successful without having friends? You know? This is how we argue and get goals in during recess time. And it's worthwhile to have that because so often schools will support your child with the teacher and perhaps an aide, whether it's a 1-to-1 aide or a 1-to-3 aide, whatever it is. But then they send the kids to lunch and they give them to the lunch duty people and they go, see you, we're going on break too. And now there's nobody trained to actually support your child during the time when they probably need it the most, right? But if you put a goal in that's during lunchtime, a social goal, now suddenly they have to have an aide there for that. Woohoo, trick. But important trick, because your child needs to be doing well socially in school. So much of the work that they're going to do later on is going to be, you know, in teams and things. Excuse me. So very critical that we're looking at that, but it doesn't stop at school. In fact, it really doesn't even begin at school. We need to take some ownership of this too. This is why we work together with the school. So if, for instance, you say to the teacher, are they playing nicely with anybody? Do they have any friends? And then the teacher says, oh, you know, I noticed them playing all the time with Felice and that they're having a good time with Felice. Now, Felice, you hang around when Felice is being picked up and you introduce yourself to whoever picks Felice up and you say, we'd love to do a play date. And then you make that the most fun play date that Felice has ever been on. You know what I'm saying? Whether that means that you take the kids to Chuck E. Cheese or you make your house an obstacle course, but you make sure that that is a fun time both for your child and for Felice, right? Whoever the friend is. So we can constantly be building, but that's a huge part of success at school is if they have a friend. Because I'll tell you something, when they have a friend, that is bully proof. If there's 3 friends, right, that are all together and hang together, people aren't going to pick on them as much. It works. They've done studies on it. So friends are important. Your child has a bad moment at school, friends are there and supportive in addition to the staff that's there. So we really, really want to make sure that they have friends. Anita says, properly trained and qualified assistants are very important. They are. The problem is that most schools will tell you that they do not have to provide you with, if they have staff, what their training is. They don't present you with their CV or know how many hours that they've done whatever. Sometimes they'll tell you, but they don't have to. Nor do they have to tell you what their modality is, which is why I like to get real airtight with the IEP and with the BIP so that we don't get any of this funny business. And it's important. That's why we have to do the check-ins, because sometimes they're like, oh, we'll give you a 1-to-1 aide. And basically, it's somebody who's had no training, who does not know what they're doing, doesn't know how to implement a behavior intervention plan. So, yes, and I agree with you. You say having a friend is so important. And Anita, we're on the same page today, you and I. Love, 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 love. So having a friend, really, really important. Having a couple of friends, really important. If I would start with having the play date with one friend, and then when your child can handle that really well and we're getting along really well, Then you start having 2 friends over together. Oh, that gets dicey as you know what. And sometimes I can remember having 2 friends over and crying myself afterwards because I was like, that they were talking and they didn't talk to him. And but you need to work on that and work up to when Jem was in junior high. We had a thing every Friday. Talk about a reinforcer. That if everybody's grades were at a certain point, and if one of the other kids, his grades weren't, and we were like, I'm sorry, but talk to your mom, but this is a reward for grade. And she loved it, by the way. She was like, you got to have a B or above, or you don't get to go. Every Friday, we would have a group of boys come over, and they would play video games, and they were allowed to trash my house. I would make popcorn. My husband would go get the milkshakes from In-N-Out. There was one day that one of the kids was like, what I really want is scrambled eggs. I made scrambled eggs. Whatever these kids made, I wanted. It was Friday fun at our house. Such a good time. But it was always 4 boys that would come, and they would do things together. It was a lot, but we had worked up to that for my son to be able to have 4 friends, and that helped him be ready for high school, you guys. So you start wherever you are with whatever age you are. Start with 1 child, but let's really stretch that out so that they can have many friends. Anita says oftentimes they are hired and have 0 training, period. But that's why as parents, we need to check in and say, is this working? And if it's not, we just go in and say we need more support here, and then they will get training for the staff person. So very, very, very important. Okay, number 9, because we're almost out of time, collect work samples. I can't stress enough how important this is. You get a written notification from home. You want to save those, but you also want to save your child's work. And I'm a bit of a pack rat, so maybe don't listen to me in terms of, but you never know what you're going to need. So when my child would come home with a worksheet, I just every year kept everything in case I needed it to be able to go back. And later on, during summer, you can take and throw away all but the stuff that you love. But I saved everything. So if I had to go into an IEP and say, the one day that I found that they weren't using the aid properly because I noticed that on all of these tests, he would only do the first instruction and he would never do the second instruction or the second page because nobody was checking in with him. And I was able to show that and prove that because I had the worksheets. I had them. You know what I'm saying? You got to have the work samples. It also makes your child feel like, oh, that matters. Mom's looking at it. Mom put it into the special, file box that, because that matters, And then I think your child spends a little bit more time on it. So collect those work samples. I love those frames that they have now where you can put your child's artwork. And then you just keep putting more and more stuff in. It's a shadow box, and so you can fill the whole thing. You could do that with your worksheets if you want to. But find a place, keep them someplace. It really, you want to sink their battleship in an IEP, come in with work samples. Because they'll come in with their work samples, and if you have other ones, you're like, oh, look what I have. This is the work that my child did. You want to respond to that? I'm telling you, it really gets the job done. Okay. And finally, number 10, volunteer in the classroom. Now, I'm a big, big proponent of this because schools are in desperate, dire need of help and support. Everybody needs help and support. There's no way, I'm a former teacher, there's no way the teachers can do what they're doing and prep everything. It's so many hours. Oh my goodness. They will take, I think most places are back to taking volunteers. I know it was Wonkanator after COVID, but I think they're back to taking volunteers in the classroom, and you will get to know the other children in the classroom, and you will get to know the teacher. Now, I was a problem child, and they, had their feelings about me, so they didn't let me volunteer in the classroom. Sometimes they would say, oh, we want you to work in the copy room. Don't ever feel bad about whatever they give you to volunteer. Do it because you will hear all the tea. All the gossip, you will hear all of that. Oh my gosh. And when they see that you'll happily make Xerox for them, then suddenly you can be there and like this mom, be there. I got to be, when they would do center time when he was in kindergarten, I got assigned to the art table. Oh, my gosh, I mean, it's a little bit of a nightmare, but there'd be 5 kids and I would have to do whatever the art assignment was for them for 15 minutes. And then we would rotate and the next group of kids would come. I learned so much about the dynamic of I learned what a great teacher my son had, first of all. And I saw, because I'd be helping this one with that, but I could see, what was going on with my son at the next table so that I could go back to my team at home and say, let's work on this. I got to see how great his aide was with him. I got to see which kids we should invite for the play date and which kids we should not invite for the play date, right? But you volunteer and they go, oh, this person cares. They want to be here. They care about not just their child, but the other children in the classroom, right? And you're a part of something bigger. You also get to know the other teachers who get to know you, and then they'll make a request to have your child in the classroom the next year. So 100%, if you can find the way to volunteer, if you've got the time, be the room mother. I'm saying volunteer as much as you can. Anita says 100% get involved and stay involved. You will learn more volunteering one day at your child's school than you will ever learn at any IEP meeting ever, right? And Anita says, I'm retired and I still volunteer. I stayed and volunteered at my son's grade school for years after he graduated because I started doing the school play. We would do the Women in History play that I wrote and put together, and then I would direct it. And then we moved to be closer to his high school, and I volunteered at the high school. You know what I'm saying? It's important to be there. It makes a difference. It really does. And your peace of mind will be better because you know what's going on in the classroom. Parents always say to me, they go to school and I don't know. Get in there. Get in there so that you can see what's happening firsthand. Okay. We're out of time. But hopefully it's a great time to do the check-in right now and just say, how are things going? I always tell the story about when a plane takes off from Los Angeles, it's always like course correcting just a little at a time so that it can get to New York. We got to do that with our kiddos too. Yeah, you might have the IEP, but we're going to course correct the whole way to make sure that we land safely at the other end of this school year. All right. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Autism Journey with Elijah and Susie and Rodney. So thrilled to have all of you guys here tomorrow. We're back tomorrow with Ask Dr. Doreen. We'll have Dr. Grant Pichet joining us. And then on Wednesday, oh my goodness, we've got a really important interview with a doctor who is going to talk with us very frankly about stem cells for treatment for autism. I know you're going to have a lot of thoughts and feelings, but I'm going to tell you, you might want to be interested in some of the things that he has to say. You might have some preconceived notions. I know that I did, but I've talked with him, and I think you're going to be interested in what he has to say. So tune in on Wednesday for Dr. Eric Weiss, I think is his name. Yes. All right. So that's all for today, but don't forget, get your All Ghouls Gala tickets and do your IEP check-in to make sure that everything's moving the way it's supposed to be, which is getting ready for takeoff. All right, my friends, love you so much, and I will see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.